Hey everyone, League of Experts. We're so excited today as we continue this conversation. It's an ongoing conversation. You know, in this community, it's not about a monologue, but a dialogue. And we have a superhero, one of our featured interviews, no other than Dr. Latoya. Now, Dr. Latoya, she is a college professor at Florida State University. She works full-time there as an administrator. She studies in the area of African-Diasporic dance forms, Afro-Brazilian, Afro-Cuban, and Afro-Haitian. And she's going to talk a little bit about what she knows about the Caribbean. She's really excited as a mindfulness coach. She helps individuals navigate major life transitions. Her goal, her superhero, her focus is to help individuals live in their authentic life. So if you're not living in your purpose, you're feeling something is stopping you from walking in your authentic self, probably walking through some imposter syndrome, doing something that you don't love, and you're looking to discover your best next self. Well, this speaker here, this interview, this expert here is going to discover and help us to discover how we can live in our authentic self. Dr. Latoya Davis, how are you?
I am doing well. So happy to be here and to be interviewed and to share and to talk and to dialogue, as you say.
So where are you right now? Where are you joining us? Tell us a little bit about your neck of the woods and what brings you life as you
Yes.
support so many people.
Yes. So right now I am actually sitting in my lovely office. It's a Saturday, and one of the things as a part of my job at Florida State is I do community engagement work. And so that basically entails anything where we're trying to bring people or activities into our building or into the world of dance from outside of the community. And so this morning I am facilitating an audition, even though I'm sitting here in my office with you all. But tons of students are upstairs auditioning for jobs. So we have our seniors and our juniors and our grad
Okay.
students who are about to graduate. So they're upstairs auditioning. And that really is, when we talk about something that brings me joy, it's really people being able to do what they love and
Mm,
to not feel a way about it, right? Sometimes we've been taught to yeah, I like this, but particularly in the field of dance, right? I like this, but everybody, no, that can't make you any money. You're going to be broke, the starving artist, right? And so I really love providing opportunities in ways across the spectrum, right? For people to really just stand in the power of what they love to do and to do that unapologetically.
wow. Love, stand in what you love to do and do it unapologetically. So she's here to disrupt the conventional thinking. More importantly, what Dr. Davis is actually saying. She wants to moderately to significantly disrupt you from playing it safe to living more boldly in your authenticity. And I like to work with players like that, right? So tell me, how do you take people through number one, discovering that you're not living in your authentic you? What are some of the key indicators? Because there are many people who don't want to out themselves and say, hey, I'm good with where I am. I just want to build on it, right? Sometimes we do it as business owners. We always like to say, yeah, things are going good. I'm just scaling. Come on, you're struggling. Come on, you don't like where you're at. Come on, let's be honest. So tell me, what is your authentic assessment? Take us through an audit that we
Yes.
know where we're at.
Yes. So I believe most times most people know, right? We all have an internal knowing or an urging or a something that we've learned to repress, right? And so my first step is one, let's just acknowledge where we are. Wherever you are is fine, right? But we need to acknowledge where we are. So step one is always about acknowledging where you are. And one of the questions that I always use is, given no limitations, right? And your best version of your life, what does that look like?
Mm.
And then we're able to kind of see the gap between that best version of the life and what you're doing now. And in there is where we find our starting point, right? And for everyone, what that starting point is going to be different, because there sometimes are multiple gaps, but we can't really talking about disruption, right? We don't want to disrupt too many things at one time. The system goes into shock, the ego jumps in, right? And then the ego is like, wait, nope, we're not doing anything. So my approach really is about helping us become in alignment with that internal knowing and move in a way. I like to call it my one step is better than no step, right? So oftentimes I feel like it's like too much. So then the person pulls back, we don't do anything. And I'm like, nope, what is the next right step? So with that first exercise, we're always able to kind of identify what that first next step is and then go from there. And a lot of times the reason there is that gap is because of conditioning. It's because of all of the things that we've learned or we've taught or we've taken on, and we all do it, right? I like to say we bought into this collective consciousness, and we allow ourselves to lead with that. And so then the next step is figuring out which aspects of us, which conditioning programs, which things are running that we don't realize are actually keeping us from getting to that version of our life that we want. Right. And for me, that's a lot of mindset work. That's a lot of reprogramming, just really walking through, letting go. But it all starts with accepting where we are. And so I am team no judgment, right? However you are is
Team
perfect.
no judgment.
Yes,
I
team no
love it.
judgment. However you are is perfect, right?
Yeah.
And we are just trying to get to the most aligned and highest version of yourself. So after we have identified the gap, after we've identified some of the things that are keeping you in the same place that you're in, now we develop a plan to move you forward. And the biggest thing for me is that the person has to be willing to take action, right? We can identify it, we can talk about it, we can come up with the plan, but if you are not willing to make a change and not willing to take that next small step, again, I'm not trying to take you from A to Z, right? I'm trying to get you from A to B. We'll go from B to C. We might get fancy one day and go from C to F, but I'm never trying to get you from A to Z, because again, all of those internal things kick in and we face internal resistance. So I try to as I like backdoor it, right? I try to integrate things into your natural life, into ways that you normally do, things that you normally do, and just make small adjustments. And then one day you wake up and you're like, I am no longer congruent with that person that allowed me to stay in that particular position, right? It doesn't even feel good for me to do that thing anymore. And then that's where we start to really live your life in the way that you want.
No, Dr. Davis, she is the Jedi of mindfulness. What she's actually letting you guys know is that she's not going to undress you. She's going to allow your transition to move from step by step. So it's, as we said before, moderately to significantly. So what is your capacity? What are you able to walk over? What are you willing to put your feet over? And secondly, we're going to be pursuing progress over perfection. So I like it. Team no judgment. Come on, put it in the hashtag. Team no judgment.
Team no
judgment. You want to be on team no judgment? Let me see. This is a girl for you.
Yes.
All right, because it's amazing, because in coaching and being someone who is speaking to the undercurrents that is in your life, it's not apparent. You're speaking to a soul setting. It's a Noah. It's your North Star. You can't put it on a piece of paper, but it's what you call, you know that you know. Because that's what you said it. You say, hey, it's not apparent, but it's evident.
Yes.
It's not obvious, but it exists. And you know it exists, that I'm not living in my authentic self, or I've been suppressing, some of my greatest gifts, my greatest talents. Someone once says, it's not a fear of success, right? It's not a fear of failure, but it's actually your fear of success is your greatest fear. So tell me, Doc, I call her Latoya, but we're speaking to a heavy hitter here, right? Dr. Davis, tell me, how do you what is the process you support people when they actually get a glimpse of themselves? When they actually get a glimpse of the giant that they are. And when that fear sets in, how do you support them to allow, because that fear never goes. If you play more boldly in the world, and people see you on the outside, you know, Dr. Davis, you support so many people and they see you and it's like, oh, she has it handled. Something that fear cohabitates with your courage, and it's there. So how do you support people to live with that fear, feel the fear, but still do it anyway?
Yeah, so I believe in like what I call a toolkit, right? So we build our toolkit, and I'm going to give you a bunch of tools, right? And you're always able to refer to that toolkit to kind of pull out what you need. And all of the tools essentially do the same thing, right? My mom used to say, you know, there's more than one way. It was hurt. I'm going to change the saying because, you know, political correctness and all. But essentially, there's more than one way to get to something in the end.
I know where
Right.
you're going, but everyone would have finished the sentence without you saying, we got you.
Yeah. So in that idea, I believe that sometimes where we are is different, right? Even though like I'm the same person, I wake up every day, I'm the same, you know, Latoya Davis, I have the same 2 kids, I come to the same job, like all of those things are the same, but where I am internally sometimes is different. Right. And so today, maybe my affirmation list is just not doing it for me. Right. And crafting affirmations is really one of the things that I lean into, because what affirmations do is tell the mind, it gives the mind a different narrative. Right. And that's a lot of what we're trying to do. We're trying to break the story that the internal self has latched onto and give it something different to process from. But one day, you know, maybe that ain't working for me. Right. And so, okay, I need to give a different way to give my mind a different story. Music. Right. The reason we are impacted and affected by music in so many different ways, it's the same thing, right? It's words coming into our mind that we're not conscious of, and the vibration and the frequency of the tones and the rhythm, right, begin to make a shift in our body. So I also create like playlists, or I send over different music that operate and do different things. I'm kind of a science nerd, so I deal a lot with like frequencies and tones and the tonality of music and like what all of those things do. So you get music, right? That's another tool that's in the toolkit. Some people journal, so I do a lot of journaling prompts, or voice memos, right? Just all of these things, visual cues, it full tool bag. And we learn to understand like when we need what we need. And then also sometimes it's okay in the moment to be where you are. And we allow that too, as long as you're clear that this isn't a forever thing, right? Today, I'm allowing myself the grace to be where I am. And then tomorrow we're back at it, right? It's never too late to start over, or it's never too late to make a new choice. In my group coaching program, the participants, we meet as a group, we have group classes, but the participants also are able to kind of contact me, you know, via our platform for check-ins. And oftentimes, and this is what I know, this is what I've learned, even when they feel like it is the most like, oh my gosh, what is happening right now, typically once they send a message and I send something back, they're
Right.
good. They're good. Right. Sometimes we just need somebody else to, you know, snap us out of it. And
Correct.
so that's typically how I approach that.
You know, as you mentioned about the impact of music and how you support people through that mindfulness and being able to push past where you would have often stopped, or how do you just give a supporting environment? You know, I'm presently reading a book. It's called Love Yourself, Love Your Life. And it's I'm looking, I have it up on my phone here. I'm doing a summary version of it. And one of the things neuroscientists say, they say, I'm going to just quote it here, they tell you that memory isn't set in stone. The more you remember something, especially if it's emotionally driven, the more you will reinforce the pathways connecting the neurons. So as I hear you talk about music and how it really shapes that state of mind. So the author said it's the same memory, but your state of mind changes the manifestation of your consciousness. And more importantly, it affects how memory controls you. So you're literally helping people shape their reality, hone
Yes.
on to their greater self.
Yes.
And Before this interview, I'll pull up the name of the author. It's not showing up here, it's loading. But
Yes.
you're really reinforcing a great ethos that allows us to really be authentic, really live authentic and not be afraid of the giant that's on the inside. So as we talk about, being that giant, I want to ask you a question. Now, I'm from Trinidad, right? And you made a statement earlier. You talked about dance, and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but I have an inkling that you not only talk about dance, but you actually dance, right? So she's not just a professional looking at the movements and how it supports, but you're actually challenging a statement you made there, and I wrote it down when you said it. You talked about the collective consciousness and how that impacts us being authentic, because we do things based on how people see us and how they judge us and how they view us. And we make alterations. Oh, they didn't like this, or he doesn't like, or the collective says it. But how does dance, emboldens you to be creative, be bold, be moving? Because somebody told me you're an expert soca dancer. You could dance, better than a Trini. So tell me what first of all, your dancing expertise, and then number two, we're talking about that collective conscience.
That's funny. So what's really funny about that is so carnival is one of my like all-time favorite things. And I am an introvert. I'm very reserved. I'm very shy. And so this collective consciousness idea, right? The idea of collective consciousness, particularly in larger settings, is we adapt to what the larger space is setting up for, right? And when I look at the collective consciousness at Carnival, says we're all here to have a great time. No judgment. Right? The collective consciousness says that there is no judgment. And that ability to just be free and dance and not have a care, right? To just really let it all hang out. I love the spirit of it. I love how people show up, right? I love just that pervading sense of this is about me having fun and I'm going to live in that. Right. So I started dance as a young girl. And I started with your traditional movement, ballet, jazz, tap, and jazz. And somewhere in there, I developed a bodyism, right? Because I'm a thick, Black woman from the South, right? With Caribbean roots. And so somehow that did not fit my ballet teacher's aesthetic of what was acceptable. And so I struggled for a really, really long time being able to accept parts of my body. So in dance class, I would move to the back, right? I never would show up fully in class because even though I was with a different teacher, so this goes back to that programming, right? Even though I was with a different teacher, even though I would be in different classes, the way that impacted me, the way that it lived and found space in my body and in my mind affected how I was able to show up after that for everything else. And it wasn't until I graduated with my master's degree in 2002. And as a treat to myself, I gave myself a trip to Brazil. And I took it was there for like 21 days studying dance.
Wow.
And I was like, this is great. Like I found my whole life in the dance studio in Brazil. And that feeling was something that I wanted to make sure that I was able to, in my own classes, right, give to my students and just in life. And so I look at dance as a way of, there's still a lot of colonized thinking when it comes to dance and dance instruction and dance studios. So my classes, one, I frame the class as we are community, right? As community, we are here to support each other. We start classes with affirmations, right? They do it for themselves internally. Right. So the same things that I do outside of my university setting, I do inside of the university setting, right? I'm like, set your intention for the day. What's your intention for class, right? Whatever is going to keep you back from achieving that particular thing, let it go. We go to the window, we look out the window, we do deep breathing, all of that stuff. Allowing ourselves to just give ourselves freedom. And I say, this is a no judgment class, right? You don't judge yourself and no one else gets to judge you. And my students always, at the end of the semester, they're always like, this is my favorite class, right? And we're in a dance. My particular program is ballet and contemporary focus. Okay. And they love the ability to just show up and be themselves in my class and in my space. So I try to say I live the work that I do. Ooh. Right. I don't put on a cape to do the work. I try to live it in every space that I'm in. And I hope that people feel that and are able to resonate, from that and take something, even if it's just, what, that lady who was teaching us those steps that I'm never going to do again. But you know what she told me to do before class started? Take a moment and check in with my body. And so I love the opportunity to do that stuff.
So you just disrupted my space because, we say, what's your superhero? What's the cape you put on? And you're like, when you live in your authentic self, you are the superhero. There's no costume. You don't have to hide your face. You show up boldly and brilliantly at home. You show up the same way in your workplace. You show up the same way in school, wherever you are. And I think that removes a lot of the burdens. It removes all of the multiple, face masks that we put on, the code switching. So it's a true courageous experience that you're calling us all to. And, for me, as a father, as a husband, as a coach, as the founder of the League of Experts, you're actually saying to all experts, be your brilliant self. As someone once says, when people ask you to dim your light, you should just give them some shades, because you choose not to dim your light. You're going to shine bright. You're going to work more boldly. You're going to live more brilliantly. And what's even much more significant, what you just shared, is how you would have carried those internal conversations inside, even when you changed instructor. And you said this, I would go to the back of the class. As we close, I want you to speak to that person who's always been placing themselves to the back of the class. They've changed jobs, but that shadow is still following them. They've changed spouses. That shadow is still following them. They've changed careers. They've changed institutions. They even changed states. They're probably in a different country, but that shadow is still following them, even though that they're in a new space. They're still putting themselves to the back of the class. I want you to talk to that person as we close and give them the inspiration to come to the front of the class. Be unafraid to try something new and to live in their authentic self.
Yes, thank you. I love that. I love that framing and that question. And I want to lead with this idea, right? As adults, we are not living the adult version of our life. Most of us are living what we learned as children, as adults. So we're showing up in our 30, 40, 50-year-old body self, knowing with those aspirations, still functioning from all of the things that we learned as a child. And my offering is that you say, you know what? During that time when I was a child or a teen, those things were appropriate, right? The people that were responsible for me were teaching me the best things that they knew based on what they knew. And now in my new iteration of where I am, I've learned so many things, and I am ready to incorporate that and integrate that in a way that is full and authentic. And I give myself permission to do that. It's always important that we just give ourselves permission, right? One of the things that happened during the pandemic was I gave myself permission to have grace with myself, right? We give grace to so many other people. So the person in the back is giving grace to so many other people, right? They are putting the needs and the feelings of other people first. And it's okay, because that's what we were taught, right? You gotta make sure that everybody else feels good. And I'm saying that it's okay for you to check in with yourself. And sometimes we still do make other people feel good. Absolutely fine. I'm a mother, right? but I'm doing it consciously. I'm not doing it because that is what I've been taught to do, because every time you do that, you push yourself farther and farther down. You get farther and farther in the back of the room until eventually people stop checking for you. Right? What do they say? The squeaky wheel gets the noise. You've pushed yourself so far back that people just, you're there, you're self-managing. Nobody needs to make sure that you're thriving. Nobody needs to make sure that they're pouring into you, right? It is absolutely okay to take up space. Take up space. Take up space.
Ooh.
Take up space. Take up space.
Wow, take up space. There you have it, folks. Your friend, your coach, Dr. Latoya Davis, is challenging us to live authentically, and it's time to take up space. And there's a little space she wants you to take up with her in Costa Rica. It's a space where you can discover true mindfulness, be able to live in your authentic self. And, I always say to people, self-care isn't selfish. It's one of the greatest gifts you can give to yourself. Rather living in a space of self-management as you suppress your authentic self, why not choose you? Why not put yourself at the front of the line? Because as you could live more boldly, you can serve others more brilliantly. So tell us about this retreat. It's called, Soul Wellness Retreat. I feel like I want to come Costa Rica with you guys.
Yes, so we will be in Costa Rica 6 days, 5 nights. The trip is all inclusive. Well, you have to pay to get there. But your food is included. There'll be chefs that are making meals that are nourishing for the body. And each day, it really is just an exploration of, I like to say, removing the noise, right? So I mentioned we started this conversation with me saying we always typically know, right? They're just things that are laying. It's like distorted, it's fuzz, it's the fuzz.
Right.
And so in that setting in Costa Rica, my goal is for us to remove the distortions, remove the internal chatter, remove the external chatter, and really get to what your spirit is saying next. What's next? Where does it want you to tap into? Where does it want you to lead into? And so we have 6 days that are planned with breathing. I call it guided journeys. I know people say meditation. I'm more on team guided journey, right? So someone is there facilitating, getting to really know who you are. Sound. I love sound, right? So we'll be doing sound baths and just a whole lot of things to really dig through so that you can come out feeling refreshed, being able to hear, and really ready to stand and live in your authenticity with tools. So not just, we're going to do it in this moment and you feel good in this moment and I'm going to send you back, right? But actual ways where we've integrated that into the body, into your system, and giving you things that you can feel confident about, kind of taking those next steps once you get back.
Beautiful. So I encourage you, connect with Dr. Latoya. She's on Facebook, she's on LinkedIn, and connect with that kind of conversation and support. There are some vacations, or there are some retreats you go to, and when you get back, you're even more tired from just traveling and just being there. But she's talking about a lasting type of transformation, a transformational experience that gives you the toolkit so that it doesn't wear off by the time you land in the airport. And you're like, man, I could do it another vacation, right? We're talking about practical steps that causes you to be in transformation and live in transformation. So put the cape away. You don't have to pull the mask. Live your authentic you. Thank you so much, Dr. Latoya Davis, for sharing your brilliance with us. And more importantly, let's continue the conversation. In the League of Experts, we have a community of superheroes. Now I can say superheroes where there's no costume. They're living in their authentic you. I am your host, Mwale, as we continue to support you in creating, discovering, creating, connecting and converting, and more importantly, creating community with those who you're called to serve. Looking forward to continuing the conversation. Signing out. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.